The room fell silent when Dr. Marcus Wellington said it. Perhaps, he leaned back in his leather chair, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. We should continue this discussion in simpler terms. I'm not sure everyone here has the linguistic sophistication to follow. His eyes had landed squarely on Maria Santos. What happened in the next 3 minutes would be replayed over 47 million times. But to understand why that moment mattered, you need to know what led up to it. This is the story of how one woman's response didn't just shut down a bigot. It changed an entire industry's perception of an entire nation. And it started with an email Maria almost didn't open. 6 weeks earlier, Maria Santos sat in her cramped office at the University of Manila, surrounded by stacks of linguistic research papers and half-empty cups of coffee that had long gone cold. At 34, she'd already published more papers on Southeast Asian language acquisition than most professors twice her age. Her phone pinged. Invitation to Global Language Summit, Geneva, Switzerland. Maria's hand trembled slightly as she opened the email. The Global Language Summit. It was the conference where the world's linguistic elite gathered, where policy was shaped, where careers were made or broken. She'd submitted her research on multilingual cognitive advantages 3 times over the past 5 years. 3 times rejected. But this time, the email was different. They wanted her on a panel, not just any panel, the keynote panel on the future of English as a global language. Her colleague, Professor Ramon Cruz, poked his head through the doorway. You look like you've seen a ghost. Ramon, they accepted me. Geneva, the main panel. Ramon's eyes widened. Then, slowly, his expression shifted to something more cautious. Maria, you know what happened to Dr. Reyes last year, right? She did. Dr. Isabella Reyes had been invited to a similar conference in London. She'd presented groundbreaking research on Philippine English as a legitimate variety. The response? Condescension, mockery. One panelist had actually asked if she'd had her paper checked by a native speaker before submission. This is different, Maria said, but even she could hear the uncertainty in her voice. Is it? Ramon stepped into the office. Maria, you're brilliant. Your research is flawless. But you and I both know what you're walking into. They don't invite us to these things to hear what we have to say. They invite us to prove their assumptions. If you want to see how Maria handles what comes next, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't want to miss where this goes. And stick around, because the moment that breaks the internet happens in ways you won't expect. Maria spent the next 6 weeks doing something most people wouldn't think necessary. She prepared to defend her right to speak her own language. She practiced in front of the mirror, recorded herself, watched the recordings back, analyzing every intonation, every word choice. She wasn't just preparing her academic material, she was preparing for battle. Her mother called one evening, 2 weeks before the flight. Anak, I heard about Geneva. I'm so proud. Thanks, Mama. A pause. Then, your father would have been proud too. He always said your English was perfect, better than perfect. Maria felt the familiar tightness in her chest. Her father, a public school English teacher for 40 years, had passed away 3 years ago. He'd taught thousands of students, many of whom couldn't afford private tutoring. He'd believed that English wasn't owned by anyone. It belonged to everyone who spoke it. I know, Mama. Maria, are you okay? You sound worried. How could she explain? How could she tell her mother that she was about to step onto a stage where people would judge not just her research, but her right to be there, where her accent would be scrutinized, her word choices questioned, her very credibility tied to how native she sounded? I'm fine, Mama, just tired. But she wasn't fine, because 3 days before her flight, she received an email from the conference organizers with the panel schedule. And there, listed as the moderator, was a name that made her stomach drop. Dr. Marcus Wellington. If you've never heard of Marcus Wellington, consider yourself lucky. In linguistic circles, he was both revered and reviled. A professor at Oxford, author of 6 books, and the self-appointed guardian of proper English, he'd made his career on one central argument: that English had standards, and those standards were set by its native speakers, which, in his definition, meant primarily white, Western, and preferably British or American speakers. His most controversial paper, published 5 years earlier, was titled "The Degradation of English: How Global Expansion Threatens Linguistic Integrity." In it, he'd singled out several varieties of English as corruptions of the language. Philippine English was on that list. Maria had written a response paper, a point-by-point dismantling of his arguments that was so thorough, so devastating, that it had gone viral in academic circles. Wellington had never publicly responded. But Maria knew he'd seen it, and now she was going to be on his panel. Ramon found her sitting in the faculty lounge at midnight, laptop open, Wellington's paper covered in digital annotations. "You can't prepare for someone like him," Ramon said gently. "He doesn't argue in good faith." "I know. So, what are you doing?" Maria looked up, and Ramon saw something in her eyes he'd never seen before. Not fear, not even anger, something harder, more determined. "I'm making sure that when he comes at me, I'm ready. Because this isn't just about me, Ramon. It's about every Filipino who's been told their English isn't good enough, every student my father taught, every person who's had to prove they're smart in someone else's language while being told they're doing it wrong." This is where things get intense. If you're invested in this story, show some love with that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me if you've ever experienced something like this. Now, let's get to Geneva. Geneva in October was exactly as picturesque as the postcards promised. Maria barely noticed. The Grand Hotel Kempinski sat on the shores of Lake Geneva, all old-world elegance and understated luxury. The conference hall could seat 800 people. It was already half full when Maria arrived for the first day's sessions, and the keynote panel wasn't until tomorrow. She spotted other attendees immediately. That particular brand of academic confidence, designer glasses, carefully curated, intellectual casual outfits. She'd worn her best blazer, her mother's pearl earrings, and shoes that pinched slightly but made her feel taller. "Dr. Santos?" Maria turned to find a young woman with a conference badge and an eager smile. "I'm Rachel Chen, graduate student at Berkeley. I just wanted to say, I read your response to Wellington's paper. It was brilliant. Everyone in my program talks about it." "Thank you," Maria said, genuinely touched. Rachel leaned in slightly. "He's here, you know. Wellington. I saw him at registration this morning. He's exactly as insufferable as you'd imagine." Maria laughed despite herself. "Good to know." Seriously though, Rachel's expression turned more earnest. "Be careful tomorrow. He has a reputation for blindsiding panelists. Last year at Stanford, he reduced a professor from Singapore to tears." "I'll be fine," Maria said with more confidence than she felt. But that night, in her hotel room, she couldn't sleep. She ran through her notes again. Her research was solid. She knew that. She had data, peer-reviewed publications, years of fieldwork. She'd interviewed over 2,000 multilingual speakers across Southeast Asia. Her conclusions were backed by neuroscience, sociolinguistics, and hard evidence. And yet, she knew it might not matter, because in the court of public opinion, and make no mistake, these conferences were theater as much as scholarship. Perception often trumped reality. The next morning arrived too quickly. The panel was scheduled for 10 a.m. Maria arrived at 9:15, wanting to settle in, test the microphone, get her bearings. The room was already filling up. She spotted Rachel in the third row, giving her an encouraging thumbs up. The other panelists arrived: Dr. Jennifer Moss from Harvard, Dr. Kwame Osei from Accra, and Dr. Yuki Tanaka from Tokyo. They exchanged pleasantries, the nervous small talk of academics about to perform. And then Marcus Wellington entered. He was exactly as Maria had imagined: tall, silver-haired, with the kind of casual arrogance that comes from a lifetime of being told you're brilliant. He wore a tweed jacket with elbow patches, actually wore one, unironically, and carried a leather portfolio that probably cost more than Maria's entire conference budget. He shook hands with the other panelists, his smile practiced and cold. When he reached Maria, his handshake was perfunctory. "Dr. Santos, the Philippines, yes? How lovely. Your English is quite good." It was the compliment that wasn't a compliment, the kind that sounded nice, but carried an entire worldview of condescension. "Thank you," Maria said evenly. "I've been speaking it for 34 years. His smile didn't waver. Of course, of course. Okay, this is it. The moment is coming. Before we get there, hit subscribe if you haven't already. You're going to want to remember where you were when you watched this. Comments are open. Let's continue." The panel began smoothly enough. Wellington introduced the topic: the future of English as a global language. Each panelist gave brief opening remarks. Dr. Moss discussed American English's global influence. Dr. Osei talked about African varieties and their legitimacy. Dr. Tanaka explored English education in Japan. Maria presented her research on multilingual cognitive advantages, specifically how Filipino speakers code switching between English, Filipino, and regional languages created unique neural pathways. The audience was engaged. Questions were thoughtful. For 30 minutes, it was exactly what an academic panel should be. And then, Wellington decided to steer the conversation. "These are all fascinating perspectives," he said, in that tone academics use when they're about to disagree with everything you've just said. "But I think we need to address the elephant in the room. When we talk about English as a global language, we need to ask ourselves, at what point does variation become degradation?" Dr. Osei shifted uncomfortably. "I'm not sure I follow." "Well, take Philippine English, for example," Wellington continued, his eyes sliding to Maria. "Dr. Santos has presented interesting data, but we must ask, is code switching a legitimate linguistic phenomenon? Or is it simply a failure to fully master English? When students in Manila switch mid-sentence between English and Tagalog, are they demonstrating multilingual proficiency, or are they demonstrating incomplete acquisition?" The room went quiet. Maria felt every eye turn to her. This was it. This was the moment Ramon had warned her about. The trap she'd known was coming. She could play it safe, give a diplomatic answer, cite some studies, move on, or... "Dr. Wellington," she said, her voice clear and steady, "I find your question fascinating, not because of what you're asking, but because of what you're assuming." Wellington's eyebrows rose slightly. "Oh? You're operating under the assumption that there is one correct English, and that variation from this standard represents failure. This assumption is not only linguistically inaccurate, it's historically naive and, frankly, colonialist." A murmur went through the audience. Wellington's expression hardened. "I hardly think—" "Let me finish." Maria's voice was polite but firm. "You've asked if code switching represents incomplete acquisition. The premise of your question reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of how language works. Code switching isn't a bug in the system. It's a sophisticated feature that requires greater cognitive flexibility than monolingual communication." Wellington leaned forward. "Dr. Santos, with all due respect—" "No." Maria's interruption was quiet but absolute. "With all due respect, Dr. Wellington, you've had the floor for most of this discussion. Now it's my turn." The room was dead silent. Maria continued. her words precise, her tone controlled. You published a paper 5 years ago arguing that global English varieties represent degradation of the language. You specifically cited Philippine English, Indian English, and Singaporean English as examples. I wrote a response paper. You're familiar with it, I assume? Wellington's jaw tightened. I recall. Then you'll recall that I provided empirical evidence, neuroscientific data, linguistic analysis, sociolinguistic research, demonstrating that these varieties aren't corruptions, but rather sophisticated evolutions. You never responded to that paper. Not publicly, anyway. So, I'm curious. Are you genuinely interested in linguistic truth? Or are you simply invested in maintaining a hierarchy that positions your variety of English at the top? Someone in the audience gasped. Dr. Tanaka was staring at Maria with wide eyes. Rachel Chen looked like she wanted to cheer. Wellington's face had gone red. Dr. Santos, I think you're being deliberately confrontational. I'm being precise, Maria corrected. There's a difference. And since you've questioned my linguistic competence, let me demonstrate something. She turned to address the full audience. English belongs to everyone who speaks it. It belongs to the Nigerian student who switches between English and Yoruba. It belongs to the Indian engineer who uses English mixed with Hindi. It belongs to the Filipino teacher who navigates between English, Filipino, and Cebuano in a single conversation. The assumption that there is one correct English, conveniently the variety spoken by white, Western, typically British or American speakers, is not linguistics. It's colonialism dressed up in academic robes. Wellington stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. This is absurd. Perhaps we should continue this discussion in simpler terms. I'm not sure everyone here has the linguistic sophistication to follow. And there it was, the moment that would go viral. The mask had dropped, the veneer of academic civility had cracked, revealing the condescension beneath. The room froze. Maria stood as well, slowly, deliberately. When she spoke, her voice was soft, but every word carried to the back of the room. Dr. Wellington, I want to thank you. He blinked, confused. What? I want to thank you for finally saying explicitly what you've been implying this entire time. That you don't believe I, or people like me, have the linguistic sophistication to engage with you as equals. It's clarifying. She turned to the audience. For those of you taking notes, let me give you a masterclass in what we're actually witnessing here. Dr. Wellington has committed what we in linguistics call the native speaker fallacy. The belief that being born into a language somehow grants you superior understanding of how it functions. This is demonstrably false. Maria pulled up a slide on the screen behind her. She'd added it to her presentation last night, just in case. This is data from my latest research, not yet published. We tested linguistic proficiency across 5,000 speakers globally. We measured vocabulary range, grammatical accuracy, rhetorical sophistication, and pragmatic competence. Would you like to know what we found? She didn't wait for Wellington to answer. Multilingual speakers, including Filipino English speakers, consistently outperformed monolingual native speakers on every metric except one, accent. And accent, Dr. Wellington, has absolutely nothing to do with linguistic competence. It's purely a marker of identity and origin. She advanced the slide. Furthermore, when we controlled for education level, the only significant predictor of linguistic proficiency was not whether someone was a native speaker, but whether they were multilingual. In other words, Dr. Wellington, my Filipino students, who switch between 3 languages before breakfast, are demonstrably more linguistically sophisticated than monolingual English speakers who've never had to navigate between linguistic systems. Global Divide has a lot more of these stories. Kindly hit the subscribe button right now, because what happens next is legendary. Drop a fire emoji in the comments if you're feeling this. Let's keep going. Dr. Moss, the Harvard professor, spoke up. Maria, this data is remarkable. Why hasn't this been published yet? Because, Maria said calmly, the 3 journals I submitted to all sent it to reviewers who questioned whether Philippine English speakers could produce rigorous research. One reviewer suggested I have my methodology section reviewed by a native speaker to ensure clarity. The audience erupted. Actual gasps. Someone shouted, "That's outrageous!" Wellington tried to regain control. This is all very dramatic, but let me finish, Maria said again, and this time her voice carried steel. You asked if I have the linguistic sophistication to follow complex discussions. Let me answer by demonstrating something. She began to speak, and what came out was a linguistic tour de force. She quoted Shakespeare, the entire St. Crispin's Day speech from Henry V, in perfect received pronunciation. Then she switched to a flawless American Midwest accent, quoting Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech. Then Australian English, quoting a passage from Tim Winton. Then Irish English, quoting Seamus Heaney. And then, finally, she switched to Philippine English. Her English, her voice, her identity. And this, she said, her Filipino accent clear and unashamed, is English too. This is the English my father taught in a public school for 40 years. This is the English in which Filipino writers have produced award-winning literature. This is the English in which Filipino call center workers provide customer service to Americans who couldn't tell them where Manila is on a map. This is the English that carries our history, our culture, our identity. She turned back to Wellington. You asked if I have linguistic sophistication. I just demonstrated command of 5 major English varieties, quoted 4 literary sources from memory, and presented cutting-edge research. I can also do this in Filipino and Cebuano if you'd like. How many languages do you speak fluently, Dr. Wellington? Wellington's mouth opened, closed, opened again. That's not the point. It's exactly the point. You've built a career on the idea that your English is the standard by which all others should be judged. But you're monolingual. You've never had to navigate between linguistic systems. You've never had to prove your intelligence in someone else's language while being told you're doing it wrong. You've never had to code switch to survive. Maria's voice grew stronger. So, no, Dr. Wellington, I don't think I'm the one lacking linguistic sophistication here. I think you're so trapped in your own monolingual worldview that you can't even recognize linguistic complexity when it's demonstrated right in front of you. And that's not just ignorance. That's willful blindness. The room exploded into applause. Not polite academic applause, real applause. People standing. Dr. Osei was clapping so hard, his hands must have hurt. Dr. Tanaka had tears in her eyes. Rachel Chen was on her feet, shouting, "Yes!" Wellington stood frozen, his face cycling through shock, anger, and something that might have been shame. He gathered his papers and walked off the stage without another word. The moderator, who'd been paralyzed during the entire exchange, stumbled through closing remarks. The panel ended 15 minutes early. As Maria stepped off the stage, she was swarmed. Dozens of people wanted to talk to her, congratulate her, thank her. Rachel pushed through the crowd and hugged her. That was the most amazing thing I've ever witnessed. Dr. Moss approached, extending her hand. Dr. Santos, I owe you an apology. I've been on panels with Marcus before and never said anything. That was cowardly. Thank you for saying what needed to be said. Maria shook her hand, still processing what had just happened. But it was Dr. Osei's words that hit hardest. He pulled her aside, his voice thick with emotion. My daughter is studying linguistics in London. She's Ghanaian. She told me last month that a professor said her English wasn't academic enough. She's been questioning whether she belongs in the field. I'm sending her the video of what you just did. Thank you. Video. Right. Maria had forgotten. All conference panels were recorded and live-streamed. By that evening, the video was everywhere. Someone had clipped the key moments: Wellington's condescending dismissal, Maria's systematic dismantling of his arguments, her demonstration of linguistic range, her final speech about linguistic colonialism. The clips went viral on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Hashtag linguistic sophistication was trending globally. Comments poured in from around the world. As a Nigerian who's been told my English is too African, this made me cry. Thank you. I'm a teacher in Mumbai, and I'm showing this to all my students tomorrow. Filipino here. My dad was an English teacher too. I'm crying. This is for all of us. I'm a white American linguist, and I'm ashamed I never challenged these assumptions in my own field. This is a wake-up call. Maria's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Interview requests from CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, NPR. Her university's president called, laughing with delight. Maria, you've put University of Manila on the global map. The Board of Regents wants to give you tenure immediately. But it was the message from her mother that made her cry. Anak, I just watched the video. Your father would be so proud. I am so proud. You spoke for all of us. I love you. The impact was immediate and far-reaching. Within a week, 3 major linguistics journals issued statements committing to diversify their review boards and actively recruit scholars from non-Western English-speaking countries. The conference organizing committee issued a formal apology and announced that Marcus Wellington had been removed from all future panels. Wellington himself published a half-hearted statement that wasn't quite an apology, but acknowledged the need for broader perspectives in linguistic discourse. He went on sabbatical 2 months later. But the real changes happened in smaller, more personal ways. Rachel Chen emailed Maria that her department had started a support group for multilingual graduate students. A teacher in Lagos wrote to say she now tells her students about Maria's speech when they doubt their English. A Filipino high school student wrote that he'd stopped being ashamed of his accent after watching the video. Maria received hundreds of such messages. Each one reminded her why it mattered. If this story moved you, if it made you think differently about language and identity, subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And comment below, I want to know, have you ever been made to feel like your language wasn't good enough? Let's talk about it. Maria stood in front of her father's grave in Manila, the tropical heat pressing down like a warm hand. Hi, Tate, she said softly. I brought you something. She placed a printed copy of her latest paper on the gravestone. It had just been published in the International Journal of Linguistics, one of the journals that had initially rejected her work. The title, Decolonizing English, Toward a Pluricentric Model of Linguistic Legitimacy. It got accepted, Tate, and not just accepted. They asked me to expand it into a book. Cambridge University Press wants to publish it. A slight breeze rustled the leaves of the acacia trees overhead. I wish you could have seen what happened in Geneva. You would have laughed, I think. Or maybe you would have told me I was too harsh. But I think you would have understood why I said what I said. She sat down on the grass, not caring about her clothes. You spent 40 years teaching students that English could be theirs, that they didn't have to sound British or American to be smart, to be articulate, to be worthy. I never really understood how hard that must have been until now. How many times did people question you? How many times did someone imply that your English wasn't good enough? Maria wiped her eyes. I'm writing a book, Tate, and I'm dedicating it to you and every teacher like you. Because you were right. English belongs to everyone who speaks it. And it's time the world recognized that. She stayed there for an hour, talking to her father, telling him about her plans. A new research project, a mentorship program for multilingual scholars, guest lectures in 5 countries. Before she left, she placed a bouquet of sampaguita flowers on the grave, his favorite. "I hope I made you proud, Tate." But she knew the answer. She'd always known. 1 year after Geneva, Maria stood in front of 500 students at a TEDx event in Manila. The topic: Who owns English? "When I was 7 years old," she began, "my father told me something I didn't understand at the time. He said, 'Maria, every time you speak English, you're not borrowing it. You're using what's already yours.'" The audience was silent, attentive. I didn't get it then. I thought English belonged to America, or Britain, or native speakers. It took me decades to understand what he meant. English doesn't belong to the people who spoke it first. It belongs to the people who speak it now. All of us. She clicked to her first slide. There are approximately 1.5 billion English speakers in the world. Want to know how many of them are native speakers by the traditional definition? About 400 million? That means 75% of English speakers are people like me. People who learned it as a second, third, or fourth language. We are not the exception. We are the majority. Maria smiled at the crowd. And yet, we're still told our English isn't proper. We're told to neutralize our accents, to avoid code switching, to model our speech on American or British standards. We're told that linguistic diversity is a problem to be fixed, rather than a strength to be celebrated. She paused. "I'm here to tell you, that's nonsense, and it's time we stopped accepting it." The next 20 minutes, Maria laid out her vision. A world where linguistic diversity is valued, where multiple varieties of English coexist without hierarchy, where a Filipino accent is just as legitimate as a British one, where code switching is recognized as a sophisticated skill rather than a failure. She ended with a story. "Last month, I received an email from a young woman named Rita. She's a freshman at University of the Philippines, studying linguistics. She wrote, 'Dr. Santos, I was about to drop out. I didn't think I was smart enough because my professors kept correcting my English. Then I watched your Geneva video. I'm staying. Thank you.'" Maria's voice caught slightly. That email is why this matters, because somewhere right now, there's a brilliant student being told they're not good enough because of how they speak. There's a talented professional being passed over for promotion because of their accent. There's a child being made fun of for code switching. She looked directly into the camera. To all of you out there who've been told your English isn't good enough, you are enough. Your English is legitimate. Your voice matters. And anyone who tells you otherwise doesn't understand the first thing about how language actually works. The auditorium erupted in applause. This is where I need you to do something. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt like you weren't enough because of how you speak, subscribe to this channel. Share this video. Let's change the conversation about language together. Drop a comment telling me where you're from and what language you speak. Let's celebrate our linguistic diversity right here, right now. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, a student, a colleague, a friend who's been made to feel less than because of their accent or their language, send them this video. Let's build a world where everyone's voice is valued. I'll see you in the next one. And remember, your English is legitimate. You are legitimate. Never let anyone tell you otherwise. 3 years after Geneva, Maria's book, Decolonizing English, became required reading in linguistics programs worldwide. She founded the Center for Multilingual Studies at University of Manila, which became a hub for research on linguistic diversity and equity. Marcus Wellington quietly retired from Oxford. His books, once bestsellers in linguistic circles, gradually fell out of favor as newer, more inclusive scholarship emerged. Universities started hiring more multilingual professors. Journals diversified their review boards. Conferences became genuinely global. not just Western conferences with token international participation.